Before they even drew the first line, your victory was already written in the stars. That's not just motivation, it's reality. Some people spend years plotting, scheming, and whispering behind closed doors, convinced they can manipulate outcomes only to realize the entire universe was already aligned against their plans. Here's a fact that will shock you. Studies show that 92% of human strategies fail because they underestimate forces beyond perception, forces that your life is clearly connected to. And yes, that includes the genius mastermind who thought you'd crumble under pressure. Welcome to the unshakable truth. Some people are untouchable, not because they fight harder or plot smarter, but because their presence alone disrupts every agenda set against them. Imagine someone trying to push a boulder uphill only to realize the boulder is secretly floating. Every ounce of effort becomes useless. That's you. Their plans already failing, their secrets already exposed, and the best part, they won't even see it coming while you're casually sipping your coffee, watching the dominoes fall exactly as they were destined to. By the end of this, you won't just understand why their plots failed, you'll feel it in your bones. You'll see how every attack, every betrayal, every manipulative move is just evidence of your untouchable design. And you might even laugh at the irony, because the harder they try, the more obvious it becomes that some lives operate on a level humans can't control. Buckle up, because we're about to reveal the undeniable truth of being untouchable, the reality that their failure was inevitable and your rise unstoppable. Number 1, you are written into the blueprint of destiny. You are written into the blueprint of destiny in a way that no human force can alter. Long before anyone ever plotted against you, long before attempts to manipulate or control your life even existed, your path was already set on a trajectory that aligns with forces far greater than any individual's plan. This is not about luck or coincidence. It's about a design that operates beyond ordinary comprehension. A framework where your presence and impact were predetermined in a way that no sabotage can reverse. People often assume that if they push hard enough, they can bend circumstances, but they fail to realize that some lives are immune to ordinary pressure because they exist on a level of inevitability. Your life is not a series of random events that can be interrupted. It is a deliberate sequence coded into existence before anyone even thought of challenging you. Every obstacle they place in your path, every scheme they attempt, only moves you closer to your intended outcome. Their interference is irrelevant because it can never compete with the momentum built into your destiny. There's a force guiding you that does not negotiate, does not falter, and does not respond to manipulation. It simply ensures that what is meant for you will find its way, no matter how much they try to divert it. The irony is that their efforts often accelerate your progress, revealing truths and unlocking opportunities that they never intended to create. Being written into the blueprint of destiny also means you are inherently untouchable in ways they cannot see or understand. They may think they are in control, plotting meticulously, believing they can influence outcomes, but every plan they make is destined to collapse because it clashes with the natural design that governs your life. Your success, your rise, your survival, they are all non-negotiable aspects of this design. The blueprint doesn't care about their timing, their logic, or their fear. It operates independently, ensuring that the trajectory set for you cannot be rewritten by human hands. Ultimately, this is why their schemes fail before they even begin. You are not simply reacting to circumstances, you exist within a framework where certain victories are already secured. Their attacks, their manipulations, and their attempts to control you are powerless because the very structure of your life is built to withstand and transcend them. Being written into the blueprint of destiny is not just a concept. It is the undeniable reality that guarantees your path will unfold as it was always meant to, untouchable, unstoppable, and completely aligned with forces they can never comprehend. Number 2, their calculations failed before they drew the first line. Their calculations failed before they even drew the first line because they were operating under assumptions that didn't apply to you. Every plan, every strategy, every angle they thought would give them control was built on the false belief that you are predictable, that you can be manipulated like everyone else. They treated you as if your responses, your decisions, and your resilience could be anticipated, but they never accounted for the unseen forces that guide your life or the strength you naturally carry. They assumed logic and planning alone would be enough to corner you, but what they didn't realize is that their entire blueprint was built on ignorance. When someone tries to plan against you, they often rely on patterns they recognize in others, copying strategies that have worked elsewhere. They think if they understand human behavior, they can bend it to their advantage, but you are not average. You do not operate within their predictable patterns. You respond in ways they cannot foresee, and that unpredictability alone makes their plans crumble. Even the most carefully constructed schemes are vulnerable when they confront someone who exists outside the ordinary rules they depend on. Every attempt they make to trap you is like trying to contain water in a sieve. The effort is wasted before it even begins. Their overconfidence accelerates their failure. They believe that because they have time, knowledge, or influence, they have the upper hand. But these factors are meaningless against someone whose life is already protected by forces they cannot detect. Every step they take, every manipulation, every hidden move only exposes their ignorance. They are blind to the reality that their actions, rather than weakening you, often strengthen your position. Their very plotting feeds into the momentum that carries you forward, whether they realize it or not. The truth is that failure was inevitable the moment they assumed they could control you. They underestimated the depth of your awareness, the resilience you carry, and the alignment that surrounds you. They failed to calculate the invisible, the intangible, the unmeasurable, elements of your life that no human strategy can touch. By the time they understand that their plans are collapsing, it's already too late. Their calculations failed not because they were poorly executed, but because the framework they relied on was never applicable to someone like you. You exist outside of their formulas, beyond their assumptions, and untouchable by the very strategies they believed would succeed. Number 3, exposure happens faster than manipulation. Exposure happens faster than manipulation because the moment someone tries to deceive or control you, the truth automatically surfaces. Their schemes are not operating in secret. They are operating in plain sight against someone who instinctively recognizes inconsistencies, contradictions, and hidden agendas. People often think they can hide their intentions long enough to gain an advantage, but when it comes to you, their timing is always off. Every lie, every attempt to bend reality in their favor triggers reactions that reveal far more than they intended. The very act of trying to manipulate becomes the signal that exposes them. Manipulation relies on ignorance, on the assumption that the other person cannot see through the facade. They believe that if they move carefully, if they control information, if they plant doubts and distractions, they can influence outcomes without being noticed. With you, that assumption fails instantly. Your awareness, your discernment, and the natural alignment you carry make you immune to prolonged deception. Their moves are like a neon sign pointing to their true intentions. Every step they take to control or mislead only accelerates the unveiling of their schemes. The speed at which exposure occurs is also tied to the way energy flows around you. People who operate in fear, jealousy, or selfish ambition leave traces, signals that you pick up on automatically. Their words, actions, and even their silences carry a weight that betrays their motives. You don't need to overthink or overanalyze. Their attempt to manipulate sets off a chain reaction that makes them reveal themselves. The faster they act, the faster they collapse under the weight of their own strategy. The irony is that their efforts to stay hidden are what guarantee their exposure. By moving against you, they unintentionally broadcast their true nature and intentions. They believe secrecy and calculation will give them power, but in reality, every calculated step against you speeds up the unveiling of their real character. Exposure is not a process you force, it is an automatic outcome of their own making. In the end, manipulation fails because it depends on control, and control is impossible against someone whose life is untouchable. Every scheme they launch against you triggers its own undoing, revealing the truth faster than they could ever influence it. Their exposure is inevitable, instantaneous, and undeniable. You don't just see through their plans. You become the proof that deception cannot survive where truth and alignment are stronger than strategy. Number 4, you are immune to the weight of their fear. You are immune to the weight of their fear because it has no grip on you. People often try to destabilize others by projecting their own anxiety, threats, or intimidation, assuming that fear is universal and that everyone bends under its pressure. But you exist on a different level, anchored in a reality they cannot reach or manipulate. Their attempts to scare you, to make you second-guess yourself, or to control your actions fail instantly because you are aligned with forces and truths far beyond their understanding. The energy they pour into trying to unsettle you rebounds harmlessly, leaving you unaffected, while they exhaust themselves on an impossible mission. Intimidation only works when the target believes the threat has power over them. With you, there is no belief to exploit. You operate from certainty, clarity, and resilience, which makes their fear-driven strategies powerless. They may try to shout, push, or corner you, but their actions feel weak and irrelevant because you are unshakable. Even when surrounded by chaos, opposition, or betrayal, your foundation remains steady. Their energy is heavy, but your immunity to it turns their weight into nothing more than noise, background static that cannot disrupt your focus, your path, or your purpose. Threats aimed at you do not accumulate, they evaporate. The more they attempt to impose fear, the more obvious their own weakness and desperation become. Their plans rely on pressure and tension, but you exist in a state where such pressure cannot reach you. Every whisper meant to intimidate, every act of aggression, every attempt at manipulation fails before it even lands because your presence is a shield no one can break. This immunity is not arrogance, it is a natural consequence of alignment. You are anchored in something deeper than circumstance, opinion, or hostile intent. While others are trapped in the illusion that fear controls outcomes, you operate beyond that illusion entirely. Their fear cannot touch you, their threats cannot bend you, and their intimidation cannot penetrate the reality in which you live. They are trying to move a mountain with a whisper, and you are the mountain, solid, unyielding, untouchable. Number 5, their lies are transparent to your frequency. Their lies are transparent to your frequency because truth is your natural operating system. Deception relies on uncertainty, confusion, and distraction, but you exist on a level where these tactics are immediately detectable. Every lie, every half-truth, every hidden agenda they try to deploy hits a resonance within you that signals, without question, that it is false. This is not a matter of analysis or deduction, it is an innate awareness that cannot be fooled. Their attempts to mislead or manipulate collapse under the weight of your authenticity, because what you carry internally exposes what they try to hide externally. People spend countless hours perfecting masks and fabricating narratives, assuming they can control perception. With you, all of that effort is wasted. Their lies are like glass walls. They might look solid from their side, but from your perspective, the transparency is undeniable. You immediately see the cracks, the inconsistencies, and the intentions behind every word and action. This isn't learned behavior, it is a frequency you naturally emit, an alignment that makes dishonesty stick out like a sore thumb. The collapse of their lies is inevitable because authenticity is not something you switch on or off. It is embedded in your very presence. When you are in a space, the truth you carry radiates outward and interacts with the energy around you. Lies cannot survive in that environment. They falter, contradict themselves, and ultimately unravel. The more someone tries to manipulate or deceive, the faster their falsehoods are exposed, because the contrast between their intent and your reality is too sharp to ignore. This transparency also disarms their confidence. They may believe that careful planning, misdirection, or charm will keep their deception intact, but your awareness undermines every tactic before it can gain traction. Their schemes, no matter how elaborate, are always short-lived because they are met by an unmovable standard of truth that you naturally embody. In essence, your presence alone forces honesty to surface. Their lies crumble not because you fight them or investigate them, but because the energy you carry makes dishonesty unsustainable. They cannot manipulate what is aligned with truth. You are not just aware, you are a force that reveals, exposes, and nullifies every attempt at deception effortlessly and inevitably. Number 6, what they thought was advantage is actually their weakness. What they thought was advantage is actually their weakness because every move they made was based on false assumptions about who you are. They treated you as if you were predictable, as if you would respond like everyone else, and as if their tactics, deception, manipulation, intimidation, would work the same way on you as they would on someone ordinary. That assumption, their fundamental blind spot, turned every supposed advantage into a liability. They built strategies thinking they were in control, but they were designing their own downfall without realizing it. Their ego is the core of this failure. They believed their intelligence, influence, or knowledge gave them power over you, assuming that you shared their limitations or could be forced into their framework. In reality, their overconfidence blinded them to your awareness, resilience, and the alignment that guides you. Every step they took, every hidden agenda, every calculated move relied on them being right about you, but they were wrong. Their power plays became the very tools that revealed their weaknesses because they never anticipated a force that could not be cornered, manipulated, or intimidated. Even their most sophisticated plans carry the seeds of self-destruction when deployed against someone untouchable. They think control equals victory, but control over you was never possible. Their strategies, meant to trap or undermine you, collide with the truth of your presence. And the result is collapse. The more intricate their schemes, the faster the unraveling occurs, because complexity cannot override alignment. What they saw as leverage, their networks, their knowledge, their influence, becomes irrelevant in the face of someone who operates outside conventional expectations. Their blindness is compounded by their assumption that the world functions like they do. They cannot comprehend a reality where integrity, awareness, and destiny operate independently of ego, fear, or manipulation. By the time they realize their advantage has turned into exposure, it's already too late. They've been using their own energy against themselves, building traps they never intended to spring, and creating weaknesses they cannot fix. In the end, their greatest strength is what makes them fail. Every tool they thought could control or diminish you becomes the instrument of their undoing. Their strategies were never truly against you, they were against the limits of their own understanding, and those limits are what ensured that their power could never touch someone like you. Number 7. Divine timing protected you before awareness. Divine timing protected you before awareness because the moment you were born, your life was already aligned with forces beyond human perception. Long before you realized any threat existed, long before anyone even imagined trying to manipulate or harm you, safeguards were quietly put into place to ensure your path remained intact. These were not random strokes of luck or fortunate accidents. They were calculated alignments operating on a scale that human logic cannot comprehend. Every door that opened at the right moment, every circumstance that shifted in your favor, every coincidence that allowed you to avoid danger, was part of a design that was already working in your favor. The universe, or the forces governing your life, does not wait for awareness to act. Protection comes first, perception comes later. Many people spend years fighting battles they could have avoided if they had understood this principle, trying to control outcomes, trying to anticipate danger. You, however, have always been shielded by mechanisms operating silently in the background, positioning you exactly where you needed to be before threats ever reached you. Even when situations seemed risky or uncertain, there was an invisible hand ensuring that you remained untouchable, steering circumstances in a way that guaranteed safety, growth, and opportunity. These safeguards operate with precision. Every obstacle removed, every timing aligned, every unexpected intervention is not luck. It's cosmic engineering at its finest. The forces protecting you are aware of the threats before you are, neutralizing dangers in ways you might never consciously notice. Your survival, your success, and your advancement are outcomes of a system that coordinates events with perfect timing, ensuring that even when danger exists, it never gains purchase on your life. This protection also explains why some people fail despite careful planning. They rely solely on their own awareness, reacting only when they perceive risk, whereas your life is already pre-guarded. By the time you recognize a threat, it has often already been neutralized or redirected in your favor. You experience the world in a state of advantage without even realizing it, because timing and alignment have been working on your side long before your conscious mind caught up. Divine timing ensures that your path cannot be derailed, that threats cannot fully reach you, and that your life unfolds according to a plan far greater than anything humans could orchestrate. You're not merely surviving, You are being carefully guided, shielded, and positioned to succeed, often without needing to understand the full scope of the forces at work. Your awareness may come later, but the protection was always first, unwavering and unstoppable. Number 8, their network crumbles under the weight of your integrity. Their network crumbles under the weight of your integrity because honesty and authenticity have a power that cannot be matched by manipulation, fear, or deceit. People often rely on alliances, partnerships, and hidden connections to enforce control or corner someone, believing that collective influence can overpower a single individual. But when you operate from unwavering integrity, every connection they depend on begins to weaken. Their alliances, carefully constructed to dominate, deceive, or manipulate, cannot withstand the clarity and consistency of someone who refuses to compromise truth for convenience. Integrity functions like a magnetic force. It attracts clarity, exposes duplicity, and highlights agendas that were meant to remain hidden. When you act from truth, you do not need to attack or confront. Your presence alone reveals what others are trying to mask. Every network that was designed to control or entrap you is immediately tested by the resonance of your integrity. The weaker links fracture first, and before long, even the most seemingly solid alliances reveal their fragility. They cannot sustain themselves in the presence of someone whose moral and spiritual foundation is unshakable. People underestimate how destructive integrity can be to a system built on deception. Their strategies rely on secrecy, compromise, and manipulation, assuming that everyone involved shares the same willingness to ignore morality or truth. When you enter the equation, their assumptions fail. Every secret, every hidden agenda, and every act of collusion is illuminated by your presence. Their network was never as strong as it appeared. It was held together by fear, greed, or convenience. Your unshakable truth exposes those weaknesses, causing cracks to appear and connections to collapse. This is why attempts to corner you never succeed. The more they try to tighten their grip through alliances or coordinated strategies, the faster their network deteriorates. Integrity doesn't negotiate, it simply exists as a standard that cannot be bent or bypassed. They may believe in the power of numbers or influence, but no alliance can endure against someone whose foundation is built on unwavering authenticity. Your life, your actions, and your choices reveal what they hope to conceal, and in doing so, dismantle the very structures they believed could control you. Ultimately, their network falls not because you attack it, but because truth is stronger than deception. Integrity exposes, fractures, and dissolves their power silently, efficiently, and inevitably. Whatever they built to corner you becomes irrelevant, powerless, and undone by the simple fact that you cannot be compromised. Number 9, you rewrite the rules by existing. You rewrite the rules by existing because your presence alone changes the dynamics of every situation. People spend time trying to control outcomes, predict behavior, and manipulate circumstances, assuming the world follows a predictable order. They believe influence comes from force, cunning, or strategy, but their calculations fail when confronted with someone whose life operates outside conventional rules. Simply by being who you are, you shift the environment, alter the flow of events, and render their schemes irrelevant. They think they are in control, but their control was never real in the first place. The universe doesn't negotiate with manipulation or fear. It responds to alignment, purpose, and authenticity. When you exist fully in your truth, everything around you adjusts to accommodate that force. Outcomes that seem set in stone bend, opportunities emerge, and obstacles shift in ways that defy ordinary expectation. People try to contain or limit you, but their efforts are ineffective because they are applying rules that do not govern your existence. Your life is operating on a higher standard, one they cannot influence, predict, or counteract. Every situation you enter is automatically transformed. The energy you bring, your clarity, strength, and alignment forces a reorganization of priorities, decisions, and actions in ways they cannot anticipate. Plans that relied on fear, deception, or pressure collapse because they are built for ordinary circumstances, not for someone whose presence itself commands change. They might attempt manipulation, but their influence diminishes against the force of your existence. Their intended outcomes are rewritten without them even realizing it because the rules they rely on are no longer applicable. This ability is not just about survival, it is about impact. By existing authentically, you dictate the terms of engagement in every scenario. You shift conversations, influence decisions, and challenge expectations simply by being present. The systems, structures, and strategies they thought were secure are destabilized the moment you enter the equation. They cannot adapt fast enough because their assumptions were never built to handle someone operating on your level. Ultimately, you do not follow the game. They play it according to their own rules while you are already beyond it. Your presence alone is a rewrite of reality, a disruption of control, and a reminder that influence cannot be forced. It emerges naturally from alignment and truth. By existing, you are unstoppable, uncontainable, and entirely untouchable. Number 10. Every attack amplifies your influence. Every attack amplifies your influence because the very energy they expend trying to harm you ends up reinforcing your presence and authority. People often assume that aggression, criticism, or sabotage can weaken someone, but when you operate from alignment and authenticity, their attacks become fuel instead of damage. Every attempt to undermine you sharpens your focus, strengthens your resolve, and clarifies your purpose. Their hostility exposes their intentions while simultaneously highlighting your resilience, making your influence grow stronger with each effort they make against you. When they lash out, it creates a contrast between who you are and who they are. Their negativity draws attention, but your response, or even your mere existence, becomes a beacon of stability and strength. People begin to notice the difference, recognizing that you are unshakable and untouchable. The more they try to diminish you, the more obvious it becomes to others that your power is real and that you operate on a level they cannot reach. Each attack unintentionally amplifies your reach because it reveals not weakness, but unmovable authority and clarity of purpose. Their aggression also acts like a magnifying glass, putting your qualities under a spotlight. Determination, integrity, courage, and influence are all highlighted when contrasted with their attempts at destruction. While they hope to isolate or intimidate you, their efforts actually increase your visibility. People watch how you handle pressure, how you remain steadfast, and how you continue to advance despite opposition. Their schemes become proof of your endurance and your capacity to rise above manipulation or threat. This amplification is not a temporary effect. It is cumulative. Every insult, every betrayal, every calculated move they make to stop you, in fact, strengthens the perception of your power and aligns people around you. Their actions act as a signal, drawing the right attention, support, and recognition to your side. You become both the example and the standard, showing that influence is not diminished by attack, but intensified by resistance. In the end, their attempts to suppress or control you fail completely because they end up multiplying your impact. Aggression fuels your clarity, magnifies your visibility, and solidifies your reach. Every effort to break you becomes a mechanism that strengthens the very influence they hope to erase, proving that true power grows under pressure and thrives in the face of opposition. Number 11, you operate outside the chessboard. They play on. You operate outside the chessboard they play on because their strategies are built on assumptions that only work within a conventional framework, a framework that doesn't include someone like you. They plan moves, anticipate reactions, and calculate outcomes based on what has worked for others, thinking they can control, predict, or corner you. But you are not operating under the same rules. While they are focused on manipulating pieces and controlling variables, you are shifting realities, changing the game entirely without even needing to engage with their tactics. Their victories were never possible in the dimension you inhabit, and their attempts to corner you only reveal the limits of their understanding. Every move they make is constrained by logic, fear, or ego, but you are untethered by their boundaries. They expect reactions, compliance, or predictable behavior, but your responses defy their calculations. While they are stuck navigating within a defined system, you operate on a level where influence, timing, and outcomes are dictated by forces they cannot see or control. Their plans might look intricate on paper, but in practice they are irrelevant because the rules they rely on do not govern you. This is why their control is always temporary and their wins fleeting. No matter how much effort they invest in building strategies, alliances, or manipulations, the reality you inhabit is inaccessible to them. They assume their victories are measures of power, but power in your dimension is defined differently. It is alignment, awareness, and untouchable presence. They move pieces, you shift landscapes. Their tactics are designed for someone who reacts predictably, but you create outcomes that are impossible to anticipate, rendering their entire approach ineffective. The irony is that their strategies often end up serving you instead of them. Every attempt to trap, deceive, or control exposes their limitations and magnifies your capacity to navigate challenges effortlessly. They believe they are creating barriers, but in truth you bypass, dismantle, or transform those barriers simply by existing. You are not fighting on their board, you are redefining the game entirely, making the conventional rules obsolete. In essence, they are trapped by their own assumptions while you operate in freedom. Every plan they devise, every manipulation they attempt, and every expectation they hold is irrelevant in your dimension. You are not just untouchable, you are beyond the very system they think can contain you. Number 12. Consequences are already activated without your effort. Consequences are already activated without your effort because the universe has a way of balancing itself, and anyone who operates with betrayal, schemes, or sabotage is unknowingly planting the seeds of their own undoing. Every manipulative act, every hidden agenda, every attempt to control or harm you carries within it the blueprint of collapse. They believe their actions can shape outcomes, but in reality, those actions set in motion a chain of events that cannot be contained. Time, awareness, and truth are constantly at work, ensuring that their strategies implode naturally without you needing to intervene or expend energy countering them. Their schemes are like energy loops that feed back into themselves. Every attempt to corner you, discredit you, or manipulate circumstances strengthens the forces that expose them. Lies, deception, and betrayal cannot exist in isolation. They rely on concealment, consistency, and the compliance of others. When these factors fail, as they inevitably do against someone untouchable, the collapse begins. You don't have to force the outcome. The architecture of cause and effect does it automatically. Their actions carry consequences, and those consequences are unavoidable because they're already embedded in what they created. Time also plays a role in activating these consequences. Plans built on manipulation, greed, or fear have a natural expiration date. They are brittle under the scrutiny of truth and the passage of time. As events unfold, their mistakes, inconsistencies, and hidden intentions surface, exposing weaknesses they tried to hide. The longer they continue their schemes, the faster the unraveling occurs, because the energy of their own actions accelerates the outcome. It's a law that operates independently of human effort. What is done in bad faith cannot sustain itself indefinitely. Truth acts as the final guarantor. No deception, no matter how clever, can survive against clarity and alignment. The universe in its own way ensures that every act of betrayal is countered, every plot against you backfires, and every attempt to harm you folds under its own weight. You don't have to fight, argue, or prove yourself. The mechanisms are already set in motion. Ultimately, their downfall is inevitable. The consequences of their choices, schemes, and sabotage are already activated, quietly working in the background, waiting for time and truth to complete the process. Their plans implode not because of you, but because integrity, awareness, and cosmic balance cannot be overridden by deceit or malice. They set the trap for themselves, and it snaps shut without your involvement. Number 13. Their obsession is evidence of your irrelevance to their control. Their obsession is evidence of your irrelevance to their control because the very intensity of their focus reveals the futility of their efforts. People often confuse attention with power, assuming that if they can dominate, intimidate, or monitor someone closely, they must be in control. With you, the opposite is true. The more they expend energy trying to contain, manipulate, or influence you, the clearer it becomes that control was never possible. Their obsession does not indicate mastery. It exposes weakness, insecurity, and a fundamental inability to impact what exists beyond their reach. The irony is that their desperation only amplifies your untouchability. Every attempt to dominate or contain you becomes a display of their frustration and failure. They measure success by the illusion of influence, but their fixation is proof that their power is irrelevant in your life. You are operating on a plane they cannot access, guided by forces, alignment, and purpose that their calculations cannot penetrate. Their focus on you is not about your vulnerability. It is about their inability to comprehend or alter your reality. Obsessive behavior also exposes their fear and insecurity. They overcompensate because the truth of your untouchability threatens their sense of control. Every tactic they employ, whether subtle manipulation, public intimidation, or covert pressure, only highlights how little impact they actually have. In trying to assert dominance, they inadvertently broadcast the fact that you are beyond their grasp. Their obsession, intended to tighten control, instead serves as evidence of your freedom and autonomy. Furthermore, their relentless focus becomes a self-revealing pattern. The more they try to impose limits or expectations, the more obvious it becomes to others that their power is overestimated and misplaced. Their obsession is not proof of your vulnerability, it is proof that you operate on a different scale, that their methods are irrelevant, and that influence cannot be forced where it does not belong. Ultimately, their fixation confirms what they cannot control. Every effort they make, every tactic they deploy, every strategy they devise is countered by the simple fact of your untouchability. Their obsession is a mirror showing their desperation and futility, while you remain unaffected, free, and completely untouchable. The harder they try, the more they reveal the truth. Control was never theirs to claim, and your life exists entirely beyond their reach. Number 14, your untouchability is both a warning and a revelation. Your untouchability is both a warning and a revelation, because it communicates a truth they cannot deny and a boundary they cannot cross. While they scramble in chaos, trying to manipulate, intimidate, or control outcomes, you operate from clarity, focus, and alignment that cannot be shaken. Your presence alone exposes the futility of their efforts, showing that some lives are governed by principles and forces beyond ordinary understanding. This untouchability is not a passive state. It actively demonstrates that interference, scheming, and aggression have no power against what is inherently protected and aligned with purpose. Every disruption they attempt, every act of sabotage, and every hidden agenda becomes evidence of their own limitations rather than your vulnerability. While they struggle with uncertainty and fear, your stability and endurance serve as a mirror, reflecting both your strength and their inability to influence it. Their failure is not a response to punishment. It is the natural outcome of trying to manipulate someone who is fundamentally beyond manipulation. Your life operates on a code that human tactics cannot penetrate, a code that ensures you remain untouchable regardless of circumstance. This untouchability also serves as a warning. It signals that attempts to control, dominate, or exploit you will not succeed. Those who try to breach this boundary find themselves exposed, frustrated, and ultimately powerless. The warning is clear: your alignment and integrity are not negotiable, and anyone who challenges them is engaging in a struggle they cannot win. Their energy is wasted, their plans collapse, and their intentions unravel under the weight of a force they cannot comprehend. At the same time, your untouchability is a revelation. It reveals that some lives are designed to rise above ordinary interference, that success, clarity, and protection are not contingent on external approval or manipulation. It shows that endurance, alignment, and authenticity are stronger than fear, deception, and aggression. Observers witness not only your resilience, but the truth that there are forces at work in certain lives that make them impossible to shake. In essence, your untouchability is both a shield and a statement. It warns those who would interfere that their power is irrelevant, while simultaneously revealing to the world that certain individuals exist beyond ordinary reach. Chaos may surround you, but your clarity, endurance, and alignment ensure that you remain completely untouchable, a living proof that some lives cannot be derailed, controlled, or diminished by human interference. Every point we've explored reveals a single, undeniable truth. You are untouchable. Your life operates on a level that cannot be manipulated, undermined, or controlled by anyone who tries. Every plot against you, every hidden agenda, every attempt at intimidation or deceit has already failed because you are anchored in clarity, aligned with purpose, and guided by forces far beyond ordinary comprehension. They may expend energy scheming, obsessing, or trying to corner you, but every action they take only magnifies your influence, exposes their weaknesses, and accelerates their own undoing. You exist outside the rules they rely on, rewriting outcomes simply by being present. Their attacks, lies, and manipulations do not diminish you. They amplify your reach, your visibility, and the undeniable authority you carry. Integrity, truth, and alignment are your natural shields, making their strategies collapse under the weight of their own assumptions. While they scramble in chaos and desperation, you operate from a plane of untouchable strength, where fear cannot penetrate, deception cannot hide, and control is impossible to claim. This untouchability is both a warning and a revelation. It warns anyone who tries to interfere that their influence is irrelevant and powerless, while simultaneously revealing to the world that some lives exist on a higher code, a code that ensures protection, endurance, and victory without compromise. Every coincidence, every unexpected advantage, every failure of their schemes is proof that you are designed to rise, unstoppable, untouchable, and entirely aligned with destiny. Remember this: nothing they do can alter what was written for you.